As young as 5 years old, and a family asking for leniency for their son, a former sheriff's deputy.
It's a case we started following back in March of this year. That's when the suspect was arrested. News 10's Jacqueline Beavis joins us now. She spent hours in the federal courtroom earlier today. In tonight's top story, a closer look at what happened behind the doors of that courtroom and what the federal prosecutor said about the case. Jacqueline?
Patrice, Mike, it's a horrible case without a good ending really for anyone. For one family, their son will spend the next almost 6 years in federal prison, guilty of possessing thousands of pieces of child pornography. But for dozens and dozens of victims, it's another case that only facilitates the underground world of sharing photos and videos of children that victimizes them again and again. Jim Haley Jr. was arrested in March of 2013 for possessing child pornography. At the time, he was a member of the Vigo County Sheriff's Department.
It is a sad day when we as prosecutors are required to prosecute others who are charged with the responsibility of protecting us by enforcing the law and who by their own conduct have violated the law.
The parents of Haley spoke in court saying their son is not a monster and citing sad moments talking to their son through glass. The 32-year-old spoke emotionally in front of the judge as well. He called his crime a, quote, grave error and said he knows of the pain and suffering of his victims. Those victims are a side of the case the prosecutor stood on behalf of.
We recognize that criminal defendants have families. Those families are going to love and support them. We heard from those families. What we can't hear from is we can't hear from anyone speaking except for the government on behalf of those children, because the fact of the matter is many of those kids aren't safe and weren't protected.
Now we have a rundown of what happened in court today. Jim Haley Jr. pleaded guilty to one count of possession of child pornography. No charges of sharing it were filed. The prosecution does not believe Haley was aware that his files were open to download. The judge sentenced him to 68 months. That's 5 years, 8 months in federal prison. He'll receive sex offender management while in prison and also pay $2,500 to one of his known victims. After prison, Haley will be supervised for the rest of his life. The family of Jim Haley did appear in court on his behalf today. It was a very emotional hearing as his parents and siblings showed their support for him. That said, the U.S. Attorney's Office reports they're happy with the final sentencing of the suspect in honor of those victims. Patrice, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Jacqueline. As we said, that hearing was more than 2 hours long. There are more details online of the statements made in court. You can find those by clicking on this story on our website, WTHI-TV.com.